Hello, so in this video we're going to learn how to make a flat felled seam. Flat felled seams are generally used on something like your jeans or a jean jacket or any kind of jacket or coat. And we're going to begin by sewing at your seam allowance. I have about 5/8 of an inch. You could even go 3/4. You want to give yourself a little extra seam allowance on this to be able to fold under the edge without too much trouble. So I'm going to start by putting my right sides together. My X marks the back side for you. So okay, so right sides together, and again I'm going to be sewing I think about 3/4 of an inch, and you will begin by sewing a plain seam, as most times we do, right? Okay. Just making sure there's nothing there. You should pin this before you get started, but I just want to expedite it for the video. It's just muslin and it's a short span, so I'm not going to do that, but you should be in the habit of pinning and even basting your fabrics together before you throw them under the stitching, under the sewing machine rather. Okay, so I've done my plain seam. And now, as with all plain seams, we have to bust the seam open or and press it. So that's the technical term, bust the seam open. So we're going to want to press the seam open. I'm using my tool instead of an iron. You guys will use an iron and an ironing board to get a better seam. I just want to save time. Okay, so I'm just going to roll that out. Okay, now I'm going to press my seam towards the side where I'm going to end up doing the top stitching on. So pressing mine to the right, and I'm going to now press the seams flat. So I always say press seams open and then press seams flat. Okay, so when you're pressing them open, it's to set the seam. So now I'm going to pull this back, peel back the 2 layers, and I'm going to trim away on the one that is going to have the fabric over it, right? So I'm going to be, in this case, going from the left to the right, so I'm going to trim away the right one. Trim it down to maybe 1/4 or 1/8, depends on how thick your fabric is. If you have some really thick fabric, I wouldn't do a super small seam, trim off. I'd leave at least 1/4 so you don't have a thick ledge. So now there's my, when I had pressed it, it goes right back over that side. And now what I'm going to do is I need to fold under 1/8 of an inch or 1/4, depends on what your seam allowance was allotted for, on this raw edge. So let me put a couple pins so you can see it, right? I would also probably be hand sewing this down if it was in really hard to use fabric. So after you pin baste it, I would not machine baste it, hand baste it down, but I don't need to do that with the muslin. I'm just going to use my finger to press it down and guide be able to guide myself with it. Okay, so you're going to roll that edge right along the toe of your foot. If you have an edge stitching foot, you could do that too. If you have a top stitching foot, like if this was denim and it was thick, I'd be using a top stitching foot or a compensating foot. Okay, make sure you move your pins out of the way. And you're going to want to go relatively slowly on this because you want to make sure it's right, nice on the edge. And also this stitch is going to be showing on the other side, on the right side of the garment. So please sew with accuracy on this. Now technically the other side is the right side of the garment, but I'll show you when I'm done. You can actually make this a design decision that this is the right side of the garment, and you want to see like that extra fold on your, let's say it's your jean jacket or something. So, but the way I'm teaching you with the right sides together and all that, the other side was the intended side. So this is what it would look like on the inside, but again, that could be the outside. And then the other side, see there's 2 rows of stitches, right? sorry, I want to show you. You got the seam stitch and then the other stitch. Now on the right side, you only see the one stitch because you have the plain seam there, right? So you can decide which is your really better side for you to use for the right side of your garment. And that's it.